I was traveling a week ago and someone alerted me to a sort of a headline and a theme of an article that I'd like to throw at you and get your feedback. And they were talking about Alex McFarland's recent article that he wrote on radical Islam, and he believes that radical Islam is the worst thing to happen to the world since the fall of mankind. Now, let's throw in there ISIS, Al-Qaeda, etc. Would you agree with a statement like that?
Well, I don't know exactly what he has in mind when he says a statement like that. Let's be clear. Islam, and if you don't mind me saying so, I'd like to reference it as Islam, Jan. I just don't see a radical Islam, moderate Islam. I don't see that. I see Islam. And the little bit I've studied about Islam, you look at the desire of every Muslim to mimic the life, to become more like Muhammad. And if you look at Muhammad's life, it was a bloodthirsty life. He was a very, very violent man. And this is recorded in Islamic history. I'm not saying anything that is not knowable. And so, listen, we are definitely in the last days. When are people going to realize that Islam is no doubt being part of the great move that Jesus warned about, I believe, regarding lawlessness? He says in the last days, lawlessness will abound because the love of many will grow cold. This is a godless, loveless move of what I believe is a demonic, satanic power. So, not knowing exactly what he means, he may not be far off.
I tell you what, I think he's exactly right. The thing is, if you go back into Muslim history, as Jack pointed out, what we're seeing today with ISIS and the horrid things that we're hearing and seeing, if you dare watch YouTube, that's the same thing they did virtually with everyone they met who wouldn't convert. And this happened from the beginning, from Muhammad on, the way he took Mecca, the way he took Medina and beheaded people, the city of Fez where they massacred Christians. This is Islam, what we're watching right now. And we see it from the beginning, we see it now again, and we in this time frame in the 21st century, we're just now getting a view of what real Islam is, I'm sorry to say.
And Jack, and I think you're going to kind of help sort through a little of the issue of sort of Islam and prophecy and what happens to them. And that's a very, very frequent email and call I get, Jack Hibbs, and that is, how are they dealt with? Are they going to, and we don't know, it is speculation, will they work with the world's leader? Will he employ them? We know some are going to be decimated on the mountains of Israel, Ezekiel 38:39. Jack, what is your perspective?
I love, Jan, how you said let's speculate a bit. So if we were to consider this, how about this? We know, first of all, that the book of Revelation chapter 13 mentions this prophetic announcement of beheading, that those who do not, for example, during the tribulation period, bow and succumb and vow allegiance to the Antichrist, the mode of death will be beheading. Isn't that amazing?
Isn't it?
So here we see this happening in the world. It doesn't mean we're in the tribulation period now. It means that we're seeing the stage being set. As we speculate right now, is Islam part of the religion of the Antichrist? I don't know. But this, I wonder. It seems to me that, for example, ISIS and the movement of what we see happening, would the agenda of the Antichrist, should he arise today, for example, would their agenda be in opposition to the Antichrist agenda? Meaning, will they be dealt with, let's say, for the Ezekiel battle, recorded there in Ezekiel 37 and 38, will they be so decimated that they are whipped and pushed back into the den, those that are remaining? Then the Antichrist arises, and he can arise without Islamic or Muslim interference? I don't know, but it's possible. Could it be, on the other hand, that Islam is part of the Antichrist religion? Is there an amalgamation, some sort of a homogeneous gathering of the religions of the world through the Antichrist, where he picks out certain things and certain aspects of Islam are utilized for his means? I don't know, but this I do know. Here we are living in the 21st century. You would have thought by now that we would have been more somehow advanced than to revert back to beheading. It's bizarre to me, yet perfectly biblical, that the time we're living in is at least a time of profound stage setting. And the Christians need to wake up to the fact that the stage is being set, in my opinion, at breakneck speed.
I wrote this in my fall newsletter. It's just 2 paragraphs here. Folks, you can sign up for that online, olivetreeviews.org, olivetreeviews.org, or call my office anytime to sign up for this newsletter. This happens to be my print newsletter. I wrote this, and gentlemen, I'd like your feedback on it. And it says, we We have seen what happens when America leads from behind, the entire world gets destabilized, and the socialist left in America is leading from behind, starting with the Oval Office. ISIS threatens to raise the flag of Allah in the White House. We shouldn't consider this foolishness. The Muslim Brotherhood already resides there, with several Muslim Brotherhood reps in high leadership in the Obama administration. The free world dithered as Hitler came to power, and a continent was nearly lost. Will a similar mistake be made 80 years later? Let a Koran be burned, and there is world uproar. Let entire Christian cities be uprooted, or their people killed, and there is very little response, even from within the church. And gentlemen, I think what has been so troubling this summer of 2014 has been the deafening silence from the pulpit and the pew and just about everywhere else. As back some 70, 80 years ago, it was German Nazis. Now we have Islamo-Nazis. And I think there's one huge difference between the German Nazis and the Islamo-Nazis, and that is the German Nazis wanted to live. Islamo-Nazis celebrate death, and they love death. And I think that's a huge difference.